This is Steve Zeltzer. I'm with Workweek and Pacifica, and we have covered the struggle of the residents and workers of Hunters Point to protect their environment, to protect their health and safety, and also to struggle against a cover-up by Lennar and the developers of the supposed cleanup mediation of a highly contaminated radioactive dump here in Hunters Point and Treasure Island. And joining us today is Dr. Ahimsa Sumchai. She's a longtime medical activist and doctor who's been working on protecting the residents and workers and also exposing the problem, systemic problem there is, and getting these issues addressed. So welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with you.
So Ahimsa, why don't you talk about the latest plans? You did an article about the threat of blowing up radioactive buildings in Hunters Point. I mean, there are people that live in the community, but they apparently want to blow up these buildings.
Yes. Well, I've actually written and published a series of articles. I've known about the strategic plan to explosively demolish buildings that are heavily contaminated and very dangerously situated on radioactive soils and concrete. But the plan became materialized in March of this year when the Navy sent out its official announcements and selected a contractor for the project. And until then, it was something that was on paper but really hadn't been realized. So about March, they sent out the announcement that they were identifying workers and contractors to participate in the proposed explosive demolition of 6 buildings on Parcel G of the Hunters Point shipyard. Parcel G is easy to visualize. Many people in San Francisco recognize the historic Hunters Point gantry crane. It is a city major landmark. And west of it and behind it are a series of World War II era buildings, wood framed, and they are designated Parcel G. Parcel G was cut out of Parcel D, cookie cutter fashion. It is roughly rectangular. The significance, however, is that Parcel D has always been heavily industrialized, and it is part of the radiological machine apparatus at the Hunters Point shipyard. It played a key role in the World War II and the post-World War II era. Dry Dock 4, which is right north of the gantry crane, which sits on the Gunmo Pier, is one of the first dry docks, one of the original dry docks. But the Navy plans to demolish 6 buildings on Parcel G. When they initially announced it in March, they announced that they were going to do it over the next 6 months. They also sent out materials and posted them on their administrative site that identifies the information that was sent out to workers. In no way informs them that they are potentially being exposed to radiological materials. The Navy specifically under environmental identifies lead and asbestos as being potential contaminants, but in no way do they identify and notify, as they are legally required to disclose that these workers are potentially being exposed to radioactive materials.
And it seems like they have a past record of trying to blow things up. The Candlestick Park, they wanted to blow that up, and that was stopped by a community protest. People said, how dare you try to blow up a stadium in a mostly black, brown community, poor community. The same here. It seems like they can't disassemble these buildings. They want to blow them up. It's hard to believe.
That's a good point. And under the National Environmental Policy Act, the Navy BROC is required to issue a environmental impact statement. That is one of the things that I pressured them about when they released their plan, that they are under the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, required to issue an environmental impact statement if they cannot say that this action will have no impacts, and obviously it will. The concern that I have, in addition to the very real impacts of having an explosive demolition of these dangerously contaminated buildings, is that the Navy will move to its next phase of explosively demolishing buildings on Parcel E and Parcel E2, and we know how dangerously contaminated these buildings are. There's a building on Parcel E, the enlisted men's quarters, that is not even mapped in the Navy remediation plan or even on the base, because it's the building where the officers and Navy personnel who participated in Operations Crossroads, when they were exposed to those plutonium bombs and they came back to Hunters Point, many of those officers stayed in this building, the enlisted men's quarters. So yes, that's a concern. The environmental impact statement has to determine a few things. One, do these buildings need to be demolished? I do acknowledge that the Navy may need to, demolish some of these buildings that are dilapidated, that are, unstable, that are on a coastline and, subjected to water events and extreme events that could make them dangerous. And then you raised the excellent point. There's one building in particular, Building 401. It sits at the intersection of Spear Avenue and I Street, and it is literally across the street from Parcel A. It is downhill from the shipyard playground. It's downhill from Hill Point Park, and it is adjacent to food trucks that are being parked against fence lines that have no dust curtains and are close to where the Navy is staging radioactive soil and debris. So this is, it is a nightmare. I think that the strategic geopolitical advantages that we have, if we can mount a citywide opposition to this, is that the Hunters Point shipyard, the peninsula that extends east into the bay, is landlocked. They can't get stuff out unless they truck it through streets that are zoned residential, that are, streets that belong to the city and county of San Francisco. So if the city does not permit them to truck this dangerous debris through residential communities, then they're stuck with it on federal property. And in my mind, that's great. They need to barge it out or boat it out the same way they got it in. They don't need to truck nuclear waste that they brought in from, the South Pacific after, exploding, a fleet of ships, just to test what the effects would be. And now they want to take, this waste that has accumulated in these buildings that were used as warehouses, as research labs, and, where materials were then dumped into landfills, and they want to haul it into our communities, and they don't even know where it's going. That's another element of the demolition plan. They can't even tell you where a waste that is clearly radiologically impacted is being disposed of.
And you have been taking isotope testing of the residents. There has been a case of a police training facility where policemen in San Francisco were sent by Willie Brown to get trained. Their sneakers were melting because of the radioactive radioactivity in the land. There's also a University of California animal care facility there,
Yes.
and workers there have gotten isotopes in their body. Is that true, that these people have isotopes in their body?
Well, we have the Hunters Point Biomonitoring Program has conducted urinary testing for elementary chemicals like arsenic and cesium and uranium, thallium, thorium, strontium. Those are some of the radioactive elements that we commonly detect. Dr. James Dahlgren participated as a grant partner with us, and we were able to give him $60,000 that he used towards the development of a advanced speciated urinary assay that was able to detect products of nuclear fission, and we have a nuclear cluster, 11 people who are family members, former childhood residents, who, yes, do have atomic bomb residues in their bodies in high concentrations. All of the people who underwent the speciated testing have radioactive potassium, which is a byproduct of nuclear reactions. It's also naturally occurring, but we detected plutonium-244 in most of them. That was the radioisotope most commonly detected. We have a family of 4 who all have radioactive potassium, plutonium-244, and total uranium isotopes elevated. In the family of 4, the 12-year-old boy who has a severe neurodevelopment disorder has these chemicals detected, and the senior man in the family. As you get older in the family, the concentrations are greater of these chemicals. So yes, we have been able to detect products of nuclear fission, and they are detected in current and childhood residents who are living within the half-mile perimeter of the base.
Stella Miranda, the wife of a worker of AFSCME at the UC, University of California, San Francisco facility. Her husband got sick and cancer and was fighting for workers' comp. It seems like the University of California, the Regents, the management here, want to cover it up and are even fighting for them about their workers' compensation.
Yes, it is unfortunate that the UCSF workers are facing such opposition. The UCSF workers have the highest concentrations of manganese that we have detected. Manganese has a 100% detection frequency in shipyard soils, and the workers that we've tested in the UC compound have the highest manganese concentrations. Manganese is being detected in the air monitoring system around them. In addition to John Miranda, there are now 2 workers who've been diagnosed with colon cancer, and there are lung tumors and thyroid tumors that have been diagnosed. So what we have done with the biomonitoring program is that we've created a toxic registry, and we have had our mappings digitally created. They are available on Esri. They're mounted as ArcGIS, and the program was created by Green Info Network. And what the mappings do is they take the 4 maps that we originally created. Some of them are familiar to our listeners. We can show them to you. But the maps are of people who have the radionuclides of concern in their bodies, both the speciated and the elemental testing that we did and that Dr. Dahlgren did. The people who have cancers that have been proven to be induced by exposure to ionizing radiation, brain, thyroid, lung, breast, a colon, soft tissue, basal cell skin cancer, leukemias, lymphomas. And so there's that map. And then there is the breast cancer necklace. That, in my mind, is the most simplest and most beautiful. That's where we just put the red pin at the address of a woman verified to have been diagnosed with breast cancer. And that simple map creates something that looks like a necklace that incorporates the western area of the base kind of like as a semicircle. But as the cases have increased, the digital version kind of looks like a multi-strand necklace. And then there's another mapping. That's where we were detecting arsenic, manganese, gadolinium, and vanadium, 4 chemicals in the same region. Often in the same person. The same person would have 3 or 4 chemicals, including 2 sisters living in the same house. So when we put those 4 maps on top of each other, and we'll show you this map, it's called layering, it creates a 5th map. That's the heat map. And that map tells you where is the cluster most dense and most concentrated, and then it calculates the distance from the shipyard. You next layer on the boundaries of the Hunters Point Shipyard National Priorities List boundaries, and it tells you that the heat, or where those clusters are most dense, is within 0.97 miles of the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. And that is in keeping with what AI says. AI says that health effects in the 97 federal Superfund sites in California are within about a mile. And that's what we projected when we first started. We thought that we would be seeing health effects within about a mile. So those are the very significant findings that we have to date.
Of course, over $1 billion was spent here in the remediation to Tetra Tech company, which now apparently has got a contract in East Palestine to clean up and do remediation and testing. And the $1 billion was wrought with fraud. Inspectors were falsifying the records. 2 managers of Tetra Tech went to prison. And yet it seems that there was no investigation. There was no congressional investigation. Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, the governors, Governor Brown, Governor Newsom, there's been no investigation of who's responsible, who's being held accountable.
Well, I was depositioned on December 4th, 2024 for 8 hours in USA versus Tetra Tech, and I don't think it was a coincidence that there was a settlement reached within about 10 days of my deposition, because I definitely felt that I contributed significantly. The Navy, Tetra Tech, these entities are just kind of part of a revolving door. The Navy, of course, went to sleep not only on Tetra Tech, but they went to sleep with AAA as well as with the major case at Astoria Metals that Saul Bloom was successful in the federal injunction in 2000. So, there's a pattern here, but, Pelosi did commit to having hearings and an investigation, and it's true that didn't happen.
It sounds like that kind of money, over $1 billion, the fraud that was involved, it would be incumbent on any representative to say, we're going to find out what happened, how this happened.
Right. Some of it is that you have so many lawsuits that are going on. I have been submitting complaints to the Office of the Navy Inspector General in Norfolk, Virginia. People should know that if you are aware of things going on at the base that are suspicious or potentially dangerous, that there is a hotline that you can just call or you can send an email to, and they are required to respond. But I was sending them significant information, including a photo that I captured where the Navy had left radioactive soils in a radiation staging yard over the weekend. They were uncovered, and they were right on the shoreline. So if a wave, happened to hit them, they could get dispersed.
And then the dust that's coming out with these trucks. Right. And it turned out that the trucks were going to dumps in the East Bay in California. Nobody knew where they were going. They were not properly licensed.
Yes. So, the Navy Inspector General's office at one point indicated that because there are so many, lawsuits, that their hands are kind of tied. They're limited in what they can
But, I mean, wouldn't they have more lawsuits with this demolition of radioactive buildings?
without question. The major issue also to be addressed from the demolition that you raised with regard to the police officers who filed their appeal before the United States Supreme Court in February of this year is that the demolition zone is immediately adjacent to Building 606, and there have been some illegal experts who have raised the question as to whether or not part of the motive may be to destroy federal evidence. The likelihood that, they would demolish the building right next door to Building 606 and not damage it and have a excuse to go in and demolish 606 because it's been damaged, these are some things that need to be thought through. But the case with the police officers is a travesty. We have talked about it many times, the fact that these officers were cited in a building on the most contaminated region of the base, Building 606. They were in a building that is immediately adjacent to the triangle region, triangular area on Parcel E that's been historically used to sort radioactive soils. The most heavily contaminated radiation was being staged there. They were in this building. There were contaminants in the drinking water. The air monitors were detecting, exceedances. Their animals were getting sick. Their animals were getting cancer. They were getting sick. They were being seen by doctors. And the health department was reassuring them, that the building was safe. And I believe that you pointed out that the city attorney had signed off on the safety of the building.
Well, Amy Brownell was employed by City and County of San Francisco as an environmental engineer.
Yes.
And she was actually being paid by Lennar.
Yes.
Through a special deal with Willie Brown. And she was actually answering questions of people who wanted to buy apartments here in Hunters Point about whether or not they were safe. And she was giving them advice that everything was okay, and she was paid for by Lennar. I mean, she was never prosecuted. There was never anyone held accountable for this.
Yes, that's very, very true. In fact, she was the principal speaker at a Board of Supervisors hearing on the situation, with Building 606. But fortunately, the police officers were ultimately relocated out of the building, but their case is very, very pivotal, and part of the obstacle that they face is that the health impacts took so long to surface that they didn't file a federal tort claims. You have to file a federal tort claim within a year of an insult. So if you get, cancer 4 or 5 years down the line, you can't claim that, via a federal tort claim. So the Navy does benefit from its immunity. It doesn't have sovereign immunity. It acts as if it does, as if it can do anything. But if the Navy can be proven to be negligent, then they have what's called qualified immunity. And the building demolition issue offers us an opportunity to monitor and to document their activity very, very closely. I can tell you right now that the activity that they're engaged in definitely violates the CERCLA Act, the Federal Superfund law, because of a number of things that they've done. There's some basic common law violations, not informing and not disclosing workers of radiological impacts, not talking about federal OSHA requirements for people potentially exposed to ionizing radiation. These are also very serious.
I know that you and others have been challenging them over decades, really, this thing has been going on, environmental racism, systemic treatment of the community here. Why would they think they can go ahead with this project and that no one is going to say we've got to stop the exploding of these radioactive buildings?
It is, part of it is that it's been in the making for so long, and they had been getting away with, so much, and the political contingent that has been powering the shipyard's development is weakening. You have key people, who have, who are diseased, people who are no longer wielding the level of power and influence, and then you have people in city government who are basically awake, and then you have the impact of the lawsuits that is driving awareness and consciousness. So I think that they thought that, perhaps because they had cooperation, the district supervisor has cooperated, he should recuse himself for conflicts of interest that he has. But I think that because they felt that they had, some local buy-in, that it was something that they could, go forward with. It is clear, though, that it's been something that's been in the planning for many years, and perhaps also they anticipated that, with the change in presidential administration, they could just ram it through. So initially in March, the announcement was, we're going to blow them up in 6 months, and now there has been pushback, and they're saying, they said, okay, we're going to do it in 2026, and now I understand that it's possible it could be pushed back even further, so it's outside of the election cycle.
Where does Mayor Lurie stand? Daniel Lurie's a scion of the Levi Foundation, a billionaire who wants more development in San Francisco and works with Scott Wiener to gentrify San Francisco.
I have been in communication with Mayor Lurie, and he has been receptive, and I have been in communication with representatives on his staff. He is to be commended. I think he's the first mayor to have a environmental justice or environmental person on his staff. So I know that he is listening. He hasn't made any statements. The district supervisor hasn't made any statements. I've also communicated with the staff of the president of the Board of Supervisors. That's someone who is in a position to say, you can't truck nuclear waste down a city street zone residential. You just can't do it, Some of this is kind of simple when you think about the way it needs to be approached strategically. There are protections in city government in place that should, be able to halt this process or slow this process, or at least bring the level of legal thinking and analysis that needs to be introduced. I've also been in communication with the new director of the California Department of Public Health, Erica Pan. Remember, Tomas Aragon was appointed director after being health officer here, and I've shared information with her so that she is aware that there are documents that show how much impact to human health these buildings would be if they were exploded, the cancer risks and the hazard indices.
And of course, Governor Newsom, after the convictions of Tetra Tech managers for falsifying evidence, gave a $200 no-bid contract for the Camp Fire cleanup without any bidding, and also Treasure Island, which is another nuclear military facility. They trained sailors on how to deal with a nuclear war using live radiation. It's a highly contaminated site, has been developed. There's a charter school out there. There was a public school that was closed, but the dust that was going on, there was no oversight. OSHA was MIA. I mean, the protection of the people in the community, the residents and even the workers, there appears to be none there. And there was a hearing here around the health situation at Hunters Point, and the members of the Department of Public Health in San Francisco were asked by former assemblymen why and what is the Department of Health doing about surveying the residents to see what kind of health issues they had. They didn't know anything about it.
I participated in meetings with the Health Department leadership, including Dr. Susan Phillip, the health officer, Dr. Anenya Okoye, a environmental health expert, and others. They actually came to the office and to the executive conference room, and we met with them in 2024. It is correct that there is no monitoring or surveillance. It is also correct that the Department of Public Health is required for its accreditation to do that. That is a requirement. It is also true that the Department of Public Health does have the money to do that via Article 31. The original Article 31 of the Health Code had provisions that would allow the funds that are coming from the developer via OCII to the Health Department. Those funds can be used for monitoring. The health department has a laboratory capacity to conduct surveillance. The fact of the matter is that nobody wants to find what we're finding in people. What we are finding in people, particularly people living with the half-mile perimeter of the federal Superfund site at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard, is enough to mandate relocation. What the findings that we are seeing in people, especially living around that Parcel E2 landfill, are so significant that these people should be offered a relocation option. If we were anywhere else, in an intelligent universe, they would be offered the option to relocate.
After spending $1 billion, you still have radioactive material here.
Yes.
I mean, this idea that you can clean it up, there are many other sites around the country, East Palestine, in Pikeston, in Ohio, nuclear processing plant. I mean, it seems like there are a large number of highly contaminated sites, Superfund sites, where they can't clean up, and yet they continue to put people there and workers, and they continue to have cancer epidemics.
Yes, I think that is a very fundamental truth, in fact, that we should state. The contamination at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard, there's evidence that it is high-level nuclear waste. The messaging that you get from the Navy and from the city and county of San Francisco, it's only been recently that we've acknowledged that the shipyard has radiation contamination. I remember the first time that the district supervisor, Shaman Walton, acknowledged that there may be radiation at the shipyard. The reality is that the historical documentation and the evidence shows that what is in the Parcel E2 landfill there on Fitch Street, adjacent to Paloux and Casada and Shafter and, Williams, is high-level nuclear waste. In 2012, the Department of Homeland Security flew a Bell helicopter rigged with sodium iodide radiation detectors at a level about 300 feet above the shipyard, and they detected gamma radiation levels as high as 7,700 counts per second. It was absolutely incredible. And that study was done in the spring of 2012, and then in, I think it was September, EPA fined the Navy $85,000 and identified that the landfill contains radionuclides, PCBs, and asbestos, and conducted what's called a circular action, which basically designated the Parcel E2 landfill a Superfund site within the Superfund site. Within the shipyard. So, it's a very, very dangerous location, and the idea that we're just going to, blow up buildings is, a very, very dangerous, a very, very reckless, and a very, very negligent action. And then to attempt to conceal, the potential health risks through a very elaborate scheme that involves document substitutions and changing remediation goals and conducting scans that detect no radiation when there's got to at least be some background there. This rises, and again, this is in the opinion of people who are legal experts, that this may be rising to criminal level, similar to what we were seeing with the Tetra Tech.
Well, RICO, they're actually conspiring
Yes.
to violate the law. They're in a
Yes.
criminal conspiracy to violate the law.
Yes, but we're again seeing that the masterminds here are leaders in federal government. That brings a level of complexity that could make this a very big issue, that we actually have a situation with the Navy where we have documentation of collusion and collaboration in an effort to try to conceal and erase the radiological history and impacts and risks that people in the community are facing.
Congresswoman Pelosi, former House leader, she's been aware of this. Kamala Harris was a district attorney here who set up an environmental unit in the district attorney's office. Has there been any criminal prosecution in San Francisco or nationally against this systemic violation of the laws?
Well, yes, there was the famous AAA injunction. Steve Castleman, who's the director of the clinical law, environmental law clinic at UC Berkeley, who is suing the Navy now. Attorney Steve Castleman, was part of the leadership for AAA. AAA engaged in public, witnessed actions, dumping and activities on the base for 12 years before they were shut down. And then there was the federal injunction filed by Baykeepers and Arc Ecology that shut down Astoria Metals. But no one has ever successfully gone after the Navy. So the Navy kind of, enjoys this immunity while its contractors, like the flavor of the month, get prosecuted for activities that they frequently are modeling.
One of the issues, of course, is health care. Medicaid is being destroyed. 14 million people may lose their Medicaid. 500,000 healthcare workers may be laid off. In San Francisco General Hospital, a lot of their patients are Medicaid. This is going to be having devastating impact. The whole healthcare system fight for single payer and not private control of the healthcare. Where do you stand on it?
I think that this is an opportunity. There's a Chinese saying about a danger opportunity. I do think that this is an opportunity for us to rethink models, and we do need to be thinking about a single payer type universal health care plan that many leading countries in the world have, including some of your Scandinavian countries where people are happiest and healthiest. So it is devastating, and it is a life-threatening and a life-changing impact to have people thrown off the healthcare roles and have people who are trained medical and health experts seeking employment. But perhaps at the light of the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel, and we are, if we do have an electoral system that is still intact.
Good question, with the fascist government.
Yeah, but if it is intact, then we should see a sea change in congressional representation with the midterms. But I wouldn't count on us being able to have a fair election. As you know, a coordinate, satellite coordinate at the home or the work address of the person who has plutonium or uranium or breast cancer or thyroid cancer. And that's why we were able to include the police officers. Even though we didn't test them, I offered to. When I got the tests, one of the first things I did was go to a police commission meeting and offered to test them. But there is enough in the public record, if you just read the excellent reporting, that the Chronicle writers did, and then you just look at the lawsuit, Kevin Abbey et al. Versus the United States, there's enough information there to map the cluster. The other thing is that, like if you were doing a cluster analysis on Treasure Island, there are some benefits to mapping a cluster on an island. And in a sense, they're like an island out there in Building 606. There aren't people around around that can, like obscure your findings. So you've got an isolated group of people stuck on an island, and in many ways it's easier to study them. And that's what you're seeing with the, particularly with the police officers, and to some extent also with the UCSF workers. UCSF workers, you've got your Hunters Point residents at the fence line who have some of the same cancers and diseases and conditions with the UCSF workers. A expert witness concurred with my findings, and he issued a statement to the administrative law judge who is currently reviewing the case, in which he said that the anomalous manganese findings, these really high manganese findings in the UC workers, there were manganese levels 5 times higher than the highest levels detected by Biomonitoring California. The state biomonitoring program has a regional care program where they did testing for urinary manganese. The UC workers' manganese levels 5 times higher.
And what have the UC Regents, Governor Newsom, what have they said about this? They're responsible. University of California Regents are responsible to protect the health and safety of their workers.
Yeah, there's not been any statement issued. California Department of Public Health really should be a lead agency in protecting state workers in a setting like this.
Do you know of any evidence of Cal-OSHA being out here to protect the workers here?
No, I know that the UC workers reached out to Cal-OSHA, and I professionally reached out to federal OSHA. It never got a response.
So they were MIA pretty much. They were.
Well, federal OSHA would be MIA. Cal-OSHA, their excuse may be that it's federal property. There are jurisdictional issues. There are some legitimate jurisdictional issues that surround this area. You've got the state parks at Candlestick. Yosemite Slough's a federal Superfund site now. Hunters Point Shipyard, right next to city streets. The landfill, E2 landfill is right next to Fitch Street, Paloux, Casada. These are city streets, with people living on them. And
that's a city responsibility. It's
right.
A state responsibility. Did the environmental unit of Kamala Harris ever investigate the firing of whistleblowers here at Hunters Point?
I don't think, I don't think so. But I do think that there is a lot of scapegoating and a lot of procrastination that is easily
and people don't want to know because of the liability and to cover up the liability.
Yes, and intelligent people know. Intelligent people understand. Part of the reason why I believe that the Tetra Tech fraud scandal became so enormous is because you had intelligent people who recognized that you're never going to be able to clean up high-level nuclear waste. As one of the whistleblowers said in a deposition statement, well, everybody's doing it. So like everybody started cheating, and you had all of this enterprise corruption going on in government at all levels to try to advance the project. So we're kind of left with this a boondoggle, and we're dealing with the passage of time, so it's clearer, what the health effects are. And that's why we're now able to see these patterns of effect. And basically the culminating conclusion of our 6 years of research and my 27 years of just looking at what's going on here from the pure epidemiological standpoint or the personal and professional standpoint of having, a father die prematurely of asbestosis, who was a career worker.
He was a longshoreman, ILW member.
Right, yeah. The basic take-home message is that people living within the 1 mile perimeter of the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard are exposed. Many of them have evidence of exposure and proof of exposure and secondary health effects, and people living within the half-mile perimeter of the shipyard, according to this map, deserve the option for relocation. They deserve the right to be moved out of an area where there are active excavations of radioactive soils, and now we want to blow up radioactive buildings. Start with 6, and ultimately they're going to work their way around Parcel E. To
Spread out the radioactive material to the community again.
Yes, it's spreading it further south towards Candlestick, but they also want to now build, more houses. They want to selectively shift the redevelopment plan, to Candlestick Point.
What can people do who want to stop this demolition, explosive demolition of these buildings? What's the best thing they can do?
Again, I think that one of the key individuals in power right now is the president of the Board of Supervisors, because if the Board of Supervisors said you can't truck and parade nuclear waste, through a residential neighborhood and down a major transit and commercial corridor, the Navy is going to be stuck, and they're going to have to think about some additional routes. The other thing is to push for the Navy conducting and completing an environmental impact review, because any environmental review is going to identify, the negative impacts. And then I think we're probably going to have to do some good old-fashioned, protesting and, maybe going to jail and,
Whatever it takes.
Screaming at the top of the lungs. And there's so much to protest these days. But this is an extremely serious issue. Everybody who I connect with, identifies that this is a very, very serious issue. And a lot of people express complete and utter disbelief that anything this bold would even be proposed. The Navy is doing a very good job of avoiding the adjacency issue. That's another thing I'd like to point out to our listeners, that an important element of the demolition proposal is the fact that you've got people, living across the street, and people 3rd Street about 2 miles away, and residential parcel A within a quarter of a mile. So the Navy's not even addressing the adjacency issues. And people who are in the community and smart and want to speak up, you want to, make clear that the impacts are to people who are living nearby and are going to be exposed. And there are about 23,000 people, according to the 2020 census, living within that 1 mile perimeter around Chris Road, where they want to exit those trucks, with all of that radioactive material.
Thank you very much for joining us.